While I'm working on the other things, I'm going to need access to the blinkers, and I've got them disconnected, but man, the wires are tight, so you have to remove the molding. So you have to, in order to not break anything, you have to unscrew 2 there and then 2 back here. And once you do, you slide this whole thing backwards. And you have to slide it backwards in order to have these clips right here, which are slotted. They're slotted right here and here. And they have to slot and go backwards. Remove that. And then this will come right off. Now the battery tray can be accessed by a bolt on either side. Like that. You can move it forward after removing the breather tube, which goes there. Just pull that off. Now I can access the fuel pump, which houses the fuel filter. It's hard to show, but there's a little clip here. I have to pinch that. Once you get the fuel pump out, you have to clear this these prongs by pulling them back on both sides, and then this filter will rotate off just like that, and then you have the O-ring. And here's the new one. If it says set, it'll come with the O-ring. And there's some kind of a protective cap in there. So you're just trying to line up to where these prongs will go over these little catches. Like that. Then you'll hear it snap into place. You have to do gymnastics with this thing to get it back in there. It is not easy, but it sure beats removing the gas tank. The key for me was this right here, removing this, backing this out a little bit. So now that I got the fuel filter back in, I basically just put the brackets on to hold the fuel pump in place, and then I'm just going to put everything back in reverse order. So while I'm in here, I'm going to adjust the valves. So taking off this clamp that holds the fuel inlet hose to get that out of the way. little tabs in there you have to separate to get them to come out. You just set that aside. These are just going to be moved out of the way, make it easier. Same size. And then there's two more on each, there's one on each corner basically. Oh man, that's coming off nice. Had these come off where they completely rip the gasket, so it's nice. Pretty clean in there. So I have the valve cover off, and now I'm going to get the engine at top dead center, and I'm going to do that by rotating the crankshaft. I'm redoing the clutch right now, so I'm just going to put this on here like that. It gives me some leverage to turn the engine over. So I'm going to be turning it counterclockwise. Basically that's the way the engine is going to rotate, because that's the way that the engine is going to give power to the belt. It's going to turn the rear shaft. So you can always tell which way it goes by the tire rotation. I'm going to look here at the valve intake here, and then there's the exhaust here. So I'm going to rotate the crankshaft until the intake goes down and then comes back up again. So it's going down, coming back up, and there's, once the piston gets at top dead center, that would be your compression stroke. There are marks on the flywheel over here behind the radiator, but I don't need to do all that because I'm just going to eyeball it when both valves are loose. So they're both loose at this point. So that's where I'm going to then take my feeler gauge and check. Where do I find the specs on the valves? They are going to be underneath the seat. Well, this seat's taken out right now, so it's right there. It says valve lash intake indicated by IN 0.10 and millimeter. So it's 0.10 plus or minus 0.02, and then the exhaust is 0.24 millimeter plus or minus 2. So I'm going to focus on the intake, 0.10. Alright, so then I'm going to take my feeler gauges and look for the 0.10. So the closest I have is a 0.102. So I'm going to take that feeler gauge, I'm going to slide it right there above the valve, and it should just fit. It shouldn't be too hard or too easy. So that actually feels pretty good. Just to confirm it, I'm going to go up to the next feeler gauge, which would be 0.127. And that should not fit in there. Make sure you don't have two of them stuck together like there. 0.127. And it does go in there, but there's a little bit of a drag on it. So I'm going to call that adjusted. Okay. Now the exhaust was 0.24. So here's a 0.22 and a 0.25, so I'll go with the 0.25. And this one I'm not going to be able to show you because I've got to access it underneath. Slipping and making heavy bearing noise. And ironically, I could not find an original Honda clutch assembly complete. You have to buy it piece by piece and install it if you want original. There's plenty of aftermarket clutch kits, variator kits online, but I'm going to replace this with an original. I'm not sure, but these are probably all original. So I'm going to start by basically recreating this. So this is the base of that. With the clips, I've already removed the clips, C-clips here, and I got new ones. So there's a long side to the spring and a short side. I just follow the pattern. On the old one, there's the long and the short side. That's interesting. The bearing is made in China. That's interesting. Wow. Okay. It's supposed to be OEM from Honda. And I did pull the old one out, and it also said China. That was one of the reasons going with original, was to avoid those types of bearings, because this bearing was making a lot of noise at around 5,000 miles. So figuring, you know, hey, don't cut any corners, stay original, and here you go, back to China. Figure that out. On this, there's two O-rings that go on. They are different sizes. This one goes on first. And this one goes in that groove right there. Now for this. Instructions here to apply 6 to 7 grams of grease under this shaft. So it comes with this grease. So you have to get the belt around the clutch. Hold it in there like that. Nice. Alright, now I have the cover back on. You don't have to take the air cleaner off in order to pull this cover off, but it makes it a lot easier because look at this thing. It's just in the way, I mean, or in the way of your sight. Trying to line that gasket back up is difficult. So having this off, just a few screws, makes that easier.